Well, in today's, I don't know what to call this update, so I'm just gonna wing it. This is my game review overall of Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm 4, or 1 through 4, actually. Honestly, I was expecting more out of Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm Legacy, because honestly, for number 4, I know in Asian culture it's an unlucky number. I mean, number 4, let me start with number 4 and let me go on the way down, backwards. Number 4, I was hoping for Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm 4, they actually added more characters. Honestly, I don't like seeing the same version of Naruto or Baruto 3 different times in 3 different boxes. If number 4 is the hardest game out of the Naruto series, story-wise, because you have to actually put an effort to get a 90 percentile in health and hit almost every single button in the quick time events to get enough stars to complete the game on S rank missions on the story mode. I mean that game overall is the hardest one, and it's not the most original game character development ever. I mean, there's 3 different versions of Sasuke's, or at least 2, in the actual story mode, and when you're on the character select screen, and not to mention the stupid Sasuke version of the Generations one, where he's baby Sasuke. He's like the kid Sasuke. I'm like thinking to myself, there's too many Sasukes, too many Narutos, and if that was the case, there's only one version of Hinata and Sakura. There's only 2 versions of those 2 characters. And all they did for those characters, which I actually preferred that way, was switch it over by pressing the R1 button or the L1 button, or whatever it is. That's better than having 4 different Narutos and 4 different Sasukes. In Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm 4, I was expecting more characters. If that was the case, it's the same exact game over and over again. I played it only because I wanted to play the first 3 over again, and yet they didn't even bother putting new characters in, like Shin Uchiha, that clone looking thing. When I'm playing Naruto, I'm expecting more characters from the anime, from the newer one. Seeing Baruto twice or 3 times in one box is not acceptable to me. Looking at that kind of character development is kind of boring. You guys who developed the game and who produced the game, they could have did better. That's the bottom line. Overall, number 4 in Asian culture in general is an unlucky number. I mean, that's a shame that they couldn't try to put new characters in, like Konohamaru's older form instead of just the baby form of Konohamaru. I mean, watching him look like Naruto and using the Rasengan would have been nice. I mean, playing as him as a separate character. And not to mention, there was 3 different versions of Obito. I mean, there's the dead version, which is the Tales of the Stages 6 Paths form, which I prefer to call it his dead form because he's no longer human. And he's just evil now. So I'm like looking at that like, okay, that's just being lazy. When I'm watching that particular part of it in character development in boxes, I'm like thinking, oh, my God, they could have actually put, honestly, they could have put so many different characters in Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm 4 to make it a better game, and that's all I wanted. If this is what I want from the next Naruto game, I want, if they're gonna not put characters in for the next new Naruto game, I mean, they should have actually put DLC content when the characters are in the actual anime. They should actually put the characters in the game from that point on. As the anime grows, the game developers should actually put new characters in the game to make it more interesting. I mean, that would have been better than trying to put in 4 different versions of Sasuke's, 4 different versions of Naruto's. I mean, I'm looking at the character select screen when I'm watching that game and playing it. It bores me. It really bothers me that they did that again. They could have fixed that. They had a full year to fix that whole issue. Or, yeah, because it came. The original came out in what? The original. I'm talking about not Naruto or Boruto. I'm just talking about Ninja Storm 4 in general. That one. The original one. The original came out in 2016. And during that time, the Namco Bandai and CC2 didn't even bother putting new characters in. I'm sorry to bring up their names, but come on. As a Naruto fan, I've been playing, since 2008 for all 4 games twice already. So, in retrospect, when I'm looking at that game from the original game that you guys started with, the only reason why I actually got the PS3 versions was because I knew that the PS3 versions were actually going to be a better game. But that's why I stopped collecting the PS2 versions, because those Naruto games were boring to me. And when I'm looking at Ninja Storm 1, in comparison to Ninja Storm 4, Ninja Storm 1 actually had more characters, not duplicate of characters, and it was a much better game. I mean, they didn't have some of the combat sequences that that Ninja Storm 4 has now, but like the combat system that they put in place now, but still, I would say number 1 has to be the better game of the 4 games that are out, that are in existence for Naruto. I mean, that's just how I view it. But in all fairness, number 4 honestly needed more character upgrades as DLC content in number 4. I mean, Road to Naruto is not that good of a game. I mean, the whole storyline for that movie, I watched the movie. Surprisingly, the movie is better than the actual video game. I mean the actual story part for Naruto. I mean, I watched that movie 8 times, 4 times each in Japanese, 4 times each in English, and comparison to the movie, you didn't do the movie justice. I mean, for Naruto's story. I mean, I was looking at it like, really? Like, I'm like... And I finally managed to beat the whole story mode for Naruto because I want to get the actual trophy. I actually succeeded. What was it? It took me 4 months later, after I beat the original timeline of the original story for Naruto, when I first beat it. I actually got the end of Naruto's S rank for the story mode. For the whole thing, it took me about what? I would say about 6 hours. Just because of the stupid Sasuke sequence and the... what was it? What else was it? Yeah, it was because of the stupid Sasuke sequences that you had to get 12 stars, and that took me about 4 hours over the past, what, 2 days or something like that. I was just sitting there just trying to complete the thing, and I was like, I was gonna give up again. All because I needed to rotate the analog stick this way. Okay, I don't like rotating the analog stick because I'm disabled, so I can't rotate constantly unless I'm looking down. I have to literally go. I can't look at the screen when I'm rotating the stupid analog stick on the PS4. I wish somebody developed a turbo analog stick for the controller, because it kind of does a number on my hand because of that reason. I mean, I know. And the other drawback of Naruto Ninja Storm 4 is because Uh, every time at the very end of the actual game, you're not allowed to stream it either. I mean, if that was the case, the game developers, Namco Bandai and CC2, should have never made it streamable by the first go of it. I mean, that was a problem for me because I was like, oh, now I remember, you can't even stream that game ever. I mean, if you could stream the first part of it, but at the very end of it, all you could hear is the audio part. You can't really hear or see any part of the gameplay ever. I mean, then why did they make it streamable in the first place? I don't get why that's a problem. I mean, if they didn't want to make it streamable for the PlayStation 4 camera, I mean, why make it even? Why can you even go to the YouTube thing or whatever you use to stream it with to begin with? You should be locked out of that selection screen in the first place after clicking on it. Because what is it? Like on, what is it? This game right here, Dragon Ball Z Xenoverse 2, you could only stream it on Twitch because you're not allowed to stream it on YouTube unless you transfer it over from Twitch to YouTube. For some strange reason, I guess it's because of contract reasons, so Twitch managed to get the exclusivity rights to actually be the ones to stream this. So the only way to stream this is to do it from Twitch to YouTube. But for some reason, you're only allowed to stream more than 3/4 of the game on YouTube, and then it goes to blue screen the rest of the time. I mean, I don't get why game developers even bothered making it streamable if you're not allowed to stream the whole thing. I mean, that's what also bothered me. I mean, as a game player who's all I do for this PS4 machine is stream. Otherwise, I don't even bother with playing with my PS4. I don't like my PS4 because there's no backwards compatibility. Sony claims to be the greatest system ever for the PS4, but yet you have to pay $100 to play your PS3 games again. A year, at least a year, and that's the bottom line. And I'm sort of off topic, but that was the whole point of me showing you guys this, if you guys will watch this stream, because this could be only streamed on Twitch, but I could transfer it over from Twitch to YouTube. And Twitch is hard for me to use. I'm like, sometimes. So I barely try to use Twitch if I could help it. So, but for me, what I don't understand, back on topic now, is Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm needed a way to actually add more characters as the anime progressed through the actual story. I mean, that's the bottom line. I mean, that's how I picture it. Because Konohamaru is not playable. Shin Uchiha is not playable, and he's actually in the anime now. Has multiple clones versions of himself. I mean, I'm looking at Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm 4 as a paperweight in comparison to the trilogy that came included in it. Let's see. Where do I want to continue with this? Okay. Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm 3 was a good game, but I had a problem with actually playing with 4 different versions of Naruto. I mean, and 3 different versions of Sasuke's. I mean, looking at the character roster, they could have used all the 7 swordsmen of the Mist Village. I mean, they could have used all the Akatsuki members as playable characters. All of them. They could have used the Gold and Silver Brothers. Yes, Gold and Silver Brothers. They could have used so many more characters in Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm 3 that I'm kind of disappointed in the fact that they didn't utilize all the characters that showed up in the game. That's my problem with Mortal Kombat 10. Because you guys at NetherRealm Studios put in Fujin in the actual story mode, but he's not a playable character. That's my example for that scenario. I mean, you could play as Raiden, you could play as characters that should not be in the Mortal Kombat like series, like Leatherface. I don't understand why he's in it, but not Fujin. Mortal Kombat 10 is Mortal Kombat 4 in a nutshell. But that's my example of that scenario. I mean, Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm 3 should have utilized Gold and Silver Brothers, the Akatsuki members, the they should have utilized Suzune, who I would have rather played as her also than playing 4 different versions of Naruto or 4 different versions of Sasuke's on the selection character screen. I mean, when I'm looking at it, like, really, like, there's like 4 different versions of Naruto and 4 different versions of Sasuke, and there's what, 2 different versions of 3 different versions of what's his Kabuto. I mean, I don't understand why there's 3 different versions of Kabuto ever, because I know he turns into a snake because of Orochimaru, but when he turns into the snake, there's 2 different versions of that snake. I don't understand why they couldn't put his character in one box, in one selection screen box as a character switch screen. I mean, to me, putting those 2 versions of Kabuto in in 3 different boxes does not make sense to me. I mean, you got normal Kabuto, snake version Kabuto, and Sage Mode Kabuto. I don't understand why that was done on Namco Bandai's part and CC2's part either. I don't understand why they couldn't condense it down into one beautiful box as a selection character screen thing. I mean, I'm still flabbergasted by that choice that they made for that game, for that version of the character select screen. I mean, that's just lazy. Again, I'll state the obvious, they were lazy in number 4 also. And in number 2 is where the problem started. Having 2 different versions of Naruto. And all it is in Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm 2, that's a problem for me. Having Sage Mode Naruto and regular Naruto with his 4-tailed, 9-tailed chakra form doesn't mean he's a different character. He's just wearing a different costume. I mean, that's just a problem for me. Looking at 2 different versions of Naruto is a problem for me. I like one character for one box and having multiple costumes if that was the case. That way, I could actually look at one character with multiple costume changes throughout the series. I don't like multiple versions of the same character. Just because he turns into shadow clones doesn't mean that he should have different versions of himself turning into different versions of Naruto's. I mean, that's just lazy. My overall assessment of the Naruto series, for number 1, that has to be my favorite game, only because it had one character, and all of its forms. All of his transformational forms. They had one character for 2 transformational forms, whether it's costume or transformation. That's perfect to me. That's what it is. Unlike number 2 had a better story. I like the whole walking around aspect of the story. But I'm off trailing a little bit because I forgot to add this in. Number 2 had the best open world aspect of the story mode. But number 4, again, had the worst aspect of the story mode also. Because, what is it? The setup for Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm 4 looked like the setup for Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2. Like the layout, the walking to get to your character bosses and fighting those guys and doing all that stuff. That was the reminiscent of that kind of a game. And I thought that was boring. I thought that was not Naruto because all you did was go through the motions, try to get 90% in health-wise, try to get all the button sequences, otherwise you don't get an S rank. It took me over a month to try to do that, originally, for Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm 4. But for Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm 1 has to be the best layout of that story mode, because it felt like you actually did something. Like, because I like the whole battling on walls. What else was there? Climbing on trees. It took me about 6 hours to do it, but I did it for the A rank mission for that. It took me about 6 hours to try to finish that. It took me when I first played that game for Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm 4, Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm 1, that A rank mission took me about, what was it? A full 24 hours. Yeah, it took me a full day to figure out what I was doing. But at the time, I wasn't streaming any of my videos, or I didn't have anything to stream it to, so I don't have any record of that. But I don't even have the trophies for that version of the game, because at the time Sony didn't bother putting trophies in for that game, so I have no record of it. But me personally, it took me what is it? A full 12 hours to try to do it the first time, and then I managed to beat it within half that, which was 4 to 6 hours originally. So after that, so I'm glad I actually achieved that feat, because I never thought I would actually do it. But I did it. But out of all the games that I actually enjoy playing, Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm 1, the original, the OG of the first 4, the better one of the actual Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm 4 games, through 1 through 2 through 4, has to be the better version of all the games, with the exception of the story mode in number 2 layout. But after that, they got rid of the whole thing, making it walking around aspect after that. After number 2, they got rid of some of it in number 3. I don't understand why they got rid of it in number 3 for the most part. Number 4 was just a travesty. In Asian culture, again, I'll state the obvious. Number 4 is an unlucky number, period. I guess it's true, because number 4 could have been the better game of 1, 2, and 3, and the last one, Road to Baruto Ninja Storm 4. But that game almost made me want to go back to number 2 because they should have never got rid of health regeneration in number 2. But in number 4, if you get hit maybe once or twice, you're done. You have to start all over. Number 2 gave you a lot more leniency to get hit. You had to get you had to get within a percentage of health of 60 or better for health wise, which I kind of like that aspect. I actually do prefer that aspect over this 90 percentile business of getting hit. I mean, what I liked about number 2 again is the actual story mode layout, but you couldn't climb on walls anymore. What they did in number 1, they actually did a lot more work in number 1 than they did in number 2. What is it? And they didn't add any different version of Naruto since number 2. So number 1 almost is the perfect game that they should have stuck with. Namco Bandai. Namco Bandai made almost a perfect game in number 1. They ruined it by putting more versions of Naruto in it. When it's the same, when it's just a transformation, I don't understand why they did that. And in number 3, it just keeps getting worse. And in number 4, they did the same thing. At that point, that's just lazy. And plus, I've watched the Naruto movie 8 times. And what I was hoping for this update for the new Naruto's game, which they added as a collection in the Legacy collection, which then I would call it a quantity, is that they should have added the other versions of White Zets, of Kaguya's soldiers. They could have added those guys, but they didn't do that. They didn't even add Konohamaru, which only could be accessed by Team Jutsu. I don't understand why he's not a playable character. I don't understand that. That bothers me to no end. I mean, I actually played all the Naruto games twice, at least twice, except for the second. I played them all twice, all the way through, because I couldn't wait for this collection to come out. But when they don't add new characters, that kind of bothers me, that the game developers who made the thing didn't bother putting new characters in to be playable, and that's what it is. They could have put in Konohamaru. They could have put in, instead of putting Naruto 3 different times. And I didn't like Generations. I think Generations and Revolution could kick rocks. Out of those Naruto games, I was glad that they weren't in those games. but in this collection, because I don't think they deserve to be in it. But Generations and Revolution ruined it for the greater of the 3 games that came before it, because that's where every version of Naruto came out, every version of Sasuke came out. I was like, what? But I will say, on a side note, what Generations did well is that you could pick 3 different jutsus. Sealing jutsu and ultimate jutsu, and what was the other one? I know there was a third. Awakening jutsu. That was it. But what I will state to that fact is that it should have actually had levels to it to access every single one. But in that game, that's the only drawback of Generations and Revolution, or what that they had in the game. And whose bright idea was it to put in Robo Naruto? That in Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm 4. Out of all the characters that they put in that as DLC or an add-on character in the game after you beat it, they picked that one. That was stupid in Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm 4. And I'm almost done with the whole entire game anyway. Almost. I just want to platinum it and get it over with. I don't... After I platinum it, I'll be done with it for the rest of my life, because I don't think Ninja Storm 4 is actually worth my time to play it again. Because there's no new character DLC like there should have been from the movie. I mean, if you're gonna put new characters in the game or in the movie aspect of it, you might as well put them in the game too as playable characters. But they did not do that this time around, which they should have. Namco Bandai and CC2. I mean, it would have been a perfect game if there wasn't 3 different versions of Sasuke, 3 different versions of Naruto, and instead they could have put Himawari, because she showed up in the game, but she's not a playable character because she doesn't know any jutsus yet. But who cares? You guys put Hinata's sister in it, Hinabi, so which I don't mind that. But again, 4 to me has to be the hardest game out of the series, and the most boring game ever. I mean, when I was looking at it, like, it took me over a month to beat that game originally. Again, I'll state the obvious, because of the stupid trophies aspect of it, the S-rank aspect of it, for the whole thing. And I couldn't stream the end of it because they didn't allow me to, because the stupid camera for the PS4 keeps shutting off because it's got writers copyright infringement kind of thing going on in that part of the game. But then why was it streamable in the first place for Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm 4? I'll state that thing again. Why was it streamable in the first place if you guys didn't want us to stream that game in the first place on the PS4? Now I'm gonna have to, if I want to play it again, which I'm not going to after I unlock my last trophy in the game. I'll never pick it up ever again because there's no new characters. There's only online matches, which I don't care for. Only because the only time I play online matches ever is if there's a trophy requirement for it. Ever. That's the only time I'll play online matches. Otherwise, I don't play online matches ever for any particular reason. Because I'm trying to do it for the trophies. To platinum that game or a certain game. And when people say, again, I'll state, this is off topic again. When people say I suck at playing online, it's because guys or girls or ladies, it's because I'm disabled, so I don't care if people say I suck. I really don't. I really don't like. I don't really understand why people say to me online that I suck, because I'm disabled too. So if they say I suck, I know I already suck, because I'm not gonna. The chances of me beating you are very slim, depending on what game it is. If it's Street Fighter, maybe I'll beat you, but if you thrash on me and diss me, I'll just laugh at it because I think it's funny. But that was off topic. But for this review for Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm Quantity, I don't like to call it a trilogy because it's got all 4 games in it. Which it deserves that proper name. I give the first Naruto game, I give it a 9 because it's almost a perfect game, and the layout of the story is almost it's perfect. Because you felt like you were going through the story. Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm 2 gets an 8.5 because of the stupid extra version of Naruto, which should only be a costume change. And number 3 gets a, from my perspective, 8, because it almost seems like they were trying to add more characters, but they added the same characters. But if they wanted to do that, why couldn't they just put in the Gold and Silver Brothers, all the Akatsuki members, and Suzune? What else? And they could have put in all the Hokage assistants as playable characters also. I mean, I would have loved to see that. All the Hokage 8s too as playable characters, instead of seeing two different versions of the Raikage, 2 different versions of Killer Bee. I don't like that aspect. I really don't. I really don't like that kind of character development. I think that's just lazy again. And number 4 was just a travesty, because to me it's the hardest version of the game, and also it's the in Asian culture it's an unlucky number, so I guess they just slapped it together and did all that. They didn't even try hard. And there was another version of a number 4 game that was also bad. What else was it? Mortal Kombat 10. All that I wanted that game to do was put in Fuchin, but no. And also Dawn of Dreams. That also brings me back to another version of a game. Overall, that's an example of what not to do in gameplay ever. What I'm basically trying to say for this video, if it's not broken, do not bother fixing it. They try to tweak so much of it that they forget to make it better. By making it, trying to make it better, they make it worse. And I guess in this case, the same could be said about the PS4. It's also their 4th console, and yet it's the worst one. PS2 was awesome. PS1 is also awesome because that's what they start with. PS3, depending on what version you're looking at, because I have one of the original PS3s, so that's awesome. But PS4, all I'm using this for is a YouTube device. That's it, or a streaming device in general. And yet they say greatness awaits. I'm still waiting, guys, at Sony. I mean, I'm still waiting. And the only reason why I had to buy a PS4 was because of Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm 4. But yet, when it comes to, like I said, for Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm 4, its review number is, in my opinion, now I'm getting back on topic now, it's gotta be at least a 6, or not lower, because it's the hardest game of the series. And they didn't try hard with the character development. I mean, you got 4 different versions. You got regular Naruto from baby Naruto. You got, what is it? Teenager version Naruto, which turns into Night Hills Naruto. You got Seijimo Naruto, which I don't understand why that's separated. You got the, what is it? The 2 versions of Naruto with 4th Hokage mode, with his 4th Hokage costume. I don't understand why there's 4 different versions of that. I don't have any idea why they did that. Again, that's why it deserves a 6, because it's the most hardest of the 4 games. And they didn't think about what characters to utilize correctly. If you're gonna put Boruto in the game, you might as well put the bad guys in there too. I would rather play as the panda that they captured in Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm. Ninja Storm 4. Then play as 4 different versions of Naruto or Baruto in this case. And I would rather play as Himawari than play as Baruto. 4 different versions of him. I mean, yeah, Himawari, Shin Uchiha. Yeah, they could have put in so many different characters which needed to be utilized. That's why it deserves a 6, because they put in Kaguya, which they needed to, but if you're gonna add on the movie version of the story mode, you might as well put in. Not much, man. It's fine. You might as well put in the other versions of characters that needed to be in the game. I mean, Namco Bandai, I'm kind of disappointed in you guys when you guys didn't even bother putting in the other characters that needed to be in the game, like Gold and Silver Brothers. Everybody. I mean, that's what I gotta say for that. And that's why it deserves a 6, or not lower. The other ones, Naruto, the original, deserves a 9. Number 2 deserves a 8.5. Number 3 deserves a 8. And number 4 deserves a 6. Yeah, wait, it deserves a 4 because the other crappy ones for Naruto were Generations, and Revolution, which deserve a 5.5 and 5. Yeah. In retrospect. But I don't know what game to play now, because I traded in my other game, which I was playing for a little bit. Well, that's for another video that I'm gonna do shortly after I end this one. But I gotta be going. I'll be back shortly because and same goes for what's another game that has another 4 in it. Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite has secretly, it's a number 4, but they called it Infinite instead of a number 4, which I'll always call it number 4 instead of Infinity or Infinite. And that's my next review on that game too, because what can I say? I traded in that game immediately. Because that's what I felt about it. So I'll be back. Let's see. Whoops.
Text-to-speech unavailable here. Text-to-speech unavailable here.